ready to talk about boundaries. One of the biggest parts of the SAT. It's rule based, so after you understand the rules through this video, you're going to be able to do these questions. It takes a lot of volume and repetition, but you got to be able to see on how to do each problem specifically one time, and then you're going to be able to pattern recognize that immediately. But that's basically what we're going to be going through. All right, let's just start with where these questions are at. The convention questions cluster in the back third of the module, usually starting around question 14 to 22. So these questions, 6 of them are probably going to be standard English conventions. So you can already think that's a lot of points that you should be getting off of these. And then the rest of these are probably going to be form, structure, and sense, which we'll get in later in the video. Or sorry, not later in the video, in another video. But there's about 6 of them per module. So again, big part, make sure to get these rules down. We want to master these things first because of our easiest points. And yeah. All right. So basically boiling it down, what actually is it? What is on the left side of the blank and what is on the right side? And this is what we're trying to fill in. What goes in between? Is it a period? Is it a comma? Is it a semicolon? Is it a fanboy, right? That's what we're going to be going through in this video, and there's multiple variations of what could happen in between those blanks. Here are the 4 variations. It's really, really simple. Complete and a complete and an incomplete, 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 complete, right? So what are these? Sentences, right? So a complete and a complete. Let's just start with what is a complete. A complete means a subject, a verb, and a finished thought, right? A regular sentence. Everything that we've grown up with, it's just a regular, normal sentence. Rain fell. What fell? The rain, right? 2 words and it's complete. It makes sense. She missed the final by half a second. Who missed the final? She missed it, right? We got our subject, we have our verb, and what happened? She missed the final by half a second. It makes sense, right? She is another word for a pronoun. You don't need to know this for the test actually, but just like quick little simple foundational stuff. What is a pronoun? Pronoun is subject, same thing. She is just a substitution for Maria, right? This is the pronoun, this is the subject. Or this is the noun as well, right? That's why this is called the pronoun. Okay, the committee that reviewed the storm damage claims after the spring floods released its findings on Friday. I think this sentence brings up a good topic and like point of what the SAT is trying to do to you, right? They're gonna try to make this sound super complicated, and it does. Like you might like look at this and you might be like, "Is this the noun?" Reviewed the storm. Is this the noun? Floods. Okay, findings. I don't know. But like when you really look at it, this is all it is. The committee that reviewed the storm damage claims after the spring flood. This is all just extra information, right? We're still talking about the committee, everything that we underlined. If we just remove that underlining, we get the committee released its findings on Friday, right? Same exact sentence. The committee that reviewed, right, blah, blah, blah. Same exact thing. The committee released its findings on Friday. Super simple. And we're going to get that a lot, and we want to be able to understand that distinction. But basically, we're just going subject, verb, complete thought, right? That's what a complete sentence is. So now we're going to go into specifics. Complete and a complete. What goes in the blank? All right. The tide came in fast. What came in fast? The tide. Children ran for the dunes. Who ran for the dunes? Right? Verb, subject, verb, right? This is a complete. This is a complete. What goes in between? A period. A semicolon can go in between as well. So what does that make this? Period and semicolon. Exact same thing. This is the same thing, guys. So another example is, again, we have our same sentence, complete and a complete, is a comma and a fanboy. A comma and a fanboy. For, and, nor, but, or, yet. The biggest ones you see on the SAT are and but. I've never really seen nor. Yeah, I've never really seen those ones. And but is a big one. So you're going to get comma and, comma, but. So that means period, semicolon, and a comma and are all the same exact thing. Exact same thing. So that means on the test, when you're doing the test, right? Like that means if you have A, B, C, and D as choices, and like 2 of these are a comma and a semicolon, you can eliminate 2, right? And then a quick little English lesson on what this actually is, right? This is a complete and a complete. That's a comma splice. This is when you put a comma in a place of a period, right? The engine stalled. We coasted to the shoulder. What stalled? The engine, right? Subject. We coasted to the shoulder. Who coasted to the shoulder? We did. So this is a complete sentence and a complete sentence. So what is this? It's a comma splice. It's broken. A comma can't do a period's job. That's basically all a comma splice is. So we're going to use this to our advantage. Like I said, A, B, C, and D, right? We eliminate 2. You can only have one right answer. The archive digitized thousands of letters. Let's immediately look at that, right? We know a semicolon and a period are the same thing. We also know a comma and a fanboy are the same thing as well, right? So here's our comma and our fanboy, here's our period, here's our semicolon. And you already eliminate 3. Here's your answer, D. D is the only answer that can go in here, right? Easy. And another thing about the SAT is, here, this is a grammar move. I'm going to talk about the SAT because this is a grammar move, guys. Like, grammar is about rules, right? It's like, okay, this is no matter what, this is no matter what, this is no matter what. On reading questions, you predict first and look at the questions last. So let's talk about grammar, right? So grammar is rules, right? So no matter what, these rules apply, like rule 1, rule 2, whatever stuff that we go through. Like, you can't ever, like, it's never going to be possible that you put in a comma here and it'll work. Like, if this sentence is complete and this sentence is complete, like, you can never put a comma here. So it's like, it's a rule. Like, making this would be easy, right? Because you have one, let's say you have 4 choices. Like, of course, this one's going to be wrong for some reason, this one. And D is always going to be an answer. This is for grammar, though. But now when you get to claims and you get to, like, command of evidence, when you get to those, like, those poetry questions, the SAT is what? It's an organization that that colleges trust to properly assess students on their score, right? So that means if one of these questions in one of these like random like poem passages kind of makes sense, this one makes no sense, this one makes no sense, this one kind of makes sense, but College Board says C is right, that wouldn't be right. Like, then the SAT literally just wouldn't be a trusted source for assessing students' ability to do tests, right? So that means whenever they do this, they have to have a reason why A is right or B is wrong explicitly. They have to be able to point at a place in the text why it's wrong. C is wrong for an exact reason. D is wrong so that's why A is right, right? So now you have to understand that distinction. When we're doing grammar, you can look at the answer choices first because they're rules. You can read the answer choices. When you're doing passages, what you want to do and what we're going to practice later on is you're going to have 4 choices. What you want to do is you want to read the passage very, very thoroughly, answer the question yourself, and then look at the answers and you're immediately going to find your answer if you read the passage properly. And then when you're reading down the answers, you're going to see, okay, this makes no sense because this part didn't say it wasn't in the essay. Or in the passage, this wasn't in the essay. So, okay, you already eliminated 4, C is your answer, right? So for grammar, you want to look at the answer choices first. For reading, you don't want to look at the answer choices first. All right, again, one more time. You can eliminate all these because semicolon, period, comma, and for a fanboy. Eliminate, right? We get this. Complete and incomplete. We're going to talk about that next, but first we're going to go into the colon. All right, so the next thing we're going to be talking about is the colon. Really, really simple, super easy. Might sound hard. Like, I don't know, when I first started, I was like, the colon, I don't know if I feel confident about the colon, but it's actually really easy. So the left side must be a full sentence. All right, so it should be a complete sentence, and it should be a period or whatever. And the right side can be a word, a list, or a phrase, as long as it adds to the left side. All right. So in a way, it's a complete and an incomplete, but it's not actually. So don't always just look at it if it's a complete and then an incomplete. But this could be complete as well, as long as it adds to the left side. Right. She packed one thing, her grandma's compass. This adds to the left, right? Her grandma's compass. That's what she packed, right? And she packed one thing. That is a complete sentence, right? So it's fine. Right. The delay had one cause. That's complete. The shipment never arrived. This is a complete, but it adds to the left, so a semicolon will work, or a colon will work. Sorry. And again, like on the test, you won't ever get like this is a complete and this is a complete and this is there's a blank in between and we're trying to fill it in. You're not gonna get one of those like complete and complete. You're not gonna get like a probably not gonna get a period. You're not gonna get a fanboy, or a comma and a fanboy. You're not gonna get anything that could be substituted for a complete and incomplete. They're going to try to trick you and see if you know your rules for your colons, and they're going to see, okay, this is complete, this is complete, what goes in between, this adds to this sentence, so we should know it is a colon. The reason for the delay was, right, like if we just remove this, the reason for the delay was, does that even make it, that's not even complete, so it immediately negates it and it's wrong. Her favorite authors include, Her favorite authors include, like, if we just remove this, like, this isn't even a complete, this is an incomplete sentence. So again, we need complete plus the right side has to be something that adds to the left, right? So again, go back to those basics and we immediately get the answer right. Again, incomplete. Correct. Her favorite authors include Morrison, Baldwin, and Le Guin, right? Like if I didn't even introduce this idea, like you wouldn't even think this. Like you would read this sentence and you'd be like, okay, that makes sense. That's one complete sentence. For a colon to work, the left side is complete and the right side adds to the left side. So this could be complete, and this, whatever goes here, has to add to this, and that makes it a semicolon. Her favorite authors include, we talked about this, yep. Incomplete is our next topic. Because the road was closed, the delivery arrived late. Can't stand alone because the road was closed. If we remove this because the road was closed, so what, right? Like that can't stand alone. It leans on the sentence after. The delivery arrived late. I know I crossed that out, but yeah, wrong. The bridge stayed closed, although the inspection had finished a week earlier. That doesn't make sense. Like this doesn't lean on this sentence, right? The bridge stayed closed. Okay, that's a complete sentence. Although the inspection had finished a week earlier, like that doesn't. Although the inspection had finished a week earlier, so what? So what, right? Like this would have to come before this. So then we get the bridge stayed. Yeah, here's a better explanation. Complete, and this is an incomplete, right? Although the inspection had finished a week earlier, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense by itself. Although the inspection had finished a week earlier, the bridge stayed closed, right? We have an incomplete that leans on this side, and this is a complete. Simple. But don't fall for this, right? The bridge stayed closed, complete. Although the inspection had finished a week earlier, the town had no budget to reopen it. The bridge stayed closed. This is a complete sentence. This is one sentence. So technically, if you just remove this, although the inspection had finished a week earlier, the town had no budget to reopen it. So what are we really doing? This is the incomplete, and this is the town had no budget to reopen it. So this is like they're trying to trick you right here. They're giving you a sentence and they're trying to make you think, oh, okay, here's the sentence that's supposed to lean on it. We have to push this all the way in front here, but actually this doesn't even matter. All we have to look at is this sentence, and we realize, oh, okay, this is right. Right? And we look at it, right? Like I know I'm drawing a lot of lines, but although the inspection had finished a week earlier, the incomplete, and the town had no budget to reopen it. Complete. Right? This leans on this sentence. This original sentence that I had here, that was just a distraction of a complete sentence. So check is never the first. So the check is never the first word, right? So like although, some people might check for although, while, for, similarly, or like all those like transition questions. That check isn't the right answer, because if you checked on this question back all the way back here, although, you would have been like, oh, this has to go in front. No, that's not right. Right? You want to check and make sure that this sentence is incomplete and the sentence following it, or sorry, this sentence is incomplete. Oh my god, this sentence is incomplete and this sentence is complete and this sentence is leaning on this one. Next is incomplete and complete. The answer is nothing, no mark. It's one regular sentence, okay? So like you'll never get an incomplete, like this can't even possibly be a sentence. Like you have to add these together to make a sentence. The manager of the northern branch decided to relocate. The single mark never splits the subject from its verb. So the manager of the northern branch, right? We're still talking about the manager in this. This is like our first example. We can eliminate all of this and we get the manager decided to relocate. If we put a comma or a single mark, right? A comma in between this, the manager decided to relocate. Like sometimes when you read this, you might be like, the manager decided to relocate. No, that you can't do that. You can't put a comma here. You can't separate our subject from our verb with anything. Our subject always has to be followed by a verb. And I think that's something we all learned when we were kids. But it's true. Like you have to concretely notice it. You can't put a subject and then comma and a verb. You have to have your verb follow your subject. So you can't put any marks in between. A matching pair around removable information is a different rule. So now this is something new, and this is something that will help you a lot. This is what we just talked about, right? This is all unnecessary information. You could put commas around these because it's unnecessary information. Again, remember what I said. A single mark is never allowed. If you put two commas in between, this is unnecessary information. And whenever you get unnecessary information in a text, or you get two commas, you can eliminate all of it. And when you eliminate it, you're eliminating the commas as well, right? So you eliminate both of those. If you can delete the text, what sits between the marks and still point at the same thing, the pair belongs, right? So now we get the manager decided to relocate. Boom. The next topic, the team practiced hard and won the tournament. What is this? One subject, two verbs, right? Subject, practiced hard, and won is the verbs. Sorry. Totally fine, right? This is one complete sentence. The team practiced hard and they won the tournament. Now we're separating these, right? This is a complete sentence. The team practiced, they won, right? Complete and complete. So this doesn't work. You can't put an and here. It would have to be a comma and we talked about that when we talked about complete and a complete, right? This is the comma plus fanboys test, right? It does not mean a comma can never appear before and. That's the one where they trick you. So look at these. This will make more sense when you look at it. The team practiced hard, played together, and won the tournament. The archaeologists examined the artifact, a bronze figurine from the Shang dynasty, and concluded that it was ceremonial. So look at this. They put a comma and here, so now we immediately have to think, okay, this would have to be a complete sentence, and this would have to be a complete sentence. But then you realize there's another comma right here. And when you look at that, yeah, we're looking at these because we think comma and, that's immediately a complete sentence and a complete sentence, and we put a comma and a fanboy, right? And we picked and. But really, if you look at it, it's this comma, and this is non-essential information. You can eliminate this, and then you get this. The team practiced hard and won the tournament, right? That's a team practiced hard and won the tournament. This is one full complete sentence. But when you look back at this, you might think, oh, this doesn't make sense. This is wrong because comma and, right? But when you realize, go back to principles, right? When you get two commas, you get a comma here, you get a comma here. It's non-essential information. Always delete and then read it, right? Now, when you read this, you would be like, oh, the team practiced hard and won the tournament. Yeah, of course, and. Of course, it wouldn't be comma and, right? Always know the job of your comma. It's easy as that. When it has no job, she studied chemistry and physics. No job. The committee reviewed every proposal before the deadline, right? Like the comma doesn't have any job. What is it doing? Like there's no point of it. It has no job there. She studied chemistry and physics. The committee reviewed every proposal before the deadline. Really easy. So what did we learn? Always delete non-essential information, right? If you get a comma, you get a space, and you get a comma, delete it. Just delete it. First thing when you see it. Every comma needs a job. If you have a comma without a job, it doesn't even need to be there, right? That's all we learned. That's all we need to know. The second job of a semicolon, lists. All right, she lived in Austin, Texas, Bend, Oregon, and Ithaca, New York. You're going to see this rarely, but always be sure that you see it. You can have this semicolon that separates lists. When you have listed items, you're going to see it. And when you do your volume of practice questions, you're going to see you're going to go through, you're going to see a period, you're going to see a semicolon. And when you start getting to more harder questions, you're going to start seeing sometimes semicolon is the answer to the passage, right? So you're going to start getting used to semicolon. Let me just go see, is there any other semicolons within the question? If there are, then there's probably then that probably is the answer. And then you just look at it a bit harder and it probably is. 3 items, each carrying its own internal comma. The semicolons keep them apart. Both sides complete sentences, irrelevant here. So it doesn't matter if it's complete or not. As soon as you see a semicolon, you're going to get used to it. And when you do your practice problems, you're going to get more in tune with it. But when you see a semicolon, you're immediately going to go check, is this a list? And you'll be fine. But you just need to know that this is a thing, that you can have commas and lists and things listed like that. And you'll start checking for it automatically. All right, the delete test, right? The committee's final report, a dense document assembled over 18 months by researchers from 4 universities and revised twice after public hearings, recommended closing the plan. Again, I can't explain how important this comma thing is. Just remove, right? The committee's final report and recommended closing the plan. That's all it took. Careful though. We talked about this multiple times about removing this spot, but there's still some places where it's important. And this is what we call I'm not going to write it out, but actually maybe I might. Appositives. Okay. So when we have a name and we have an actual name, we have what they are named after and their actual name. Toni Morrison. the novelist Toni Morrison. Like, if we remove this, the novelist won the Nobel Prize. No, this is wrong. You can't just remove their name. Like, this is actually what they're named now. This is off a pronoun, technically, I think. But that's wrong. You can't do that. This is what we call appositives. Okay, so what are appositives? Let's get an example first. Biologist Yuri Lee did this. This is correct. Biologist Yuri Lee. Wrong. Biologist Yuri Lee. You can't put their name in commas, right? You can't ever do that. My sister Andrea. Wrong. My sister Andrea. Andrea, my sister. Yeah, you can do that. You can remove that. That makes sense. Now we just get Andrea, right? Wrong. Andrea, my sister. You can't do that. You have to put these in commas because this is not essential information. If you just remove this, you would get Andrea. That makes sense. Like, that's totally fine. And actually, forget what I said about the pronouns. That's not right about how this is a pronoun. Like, yes, this makes sense, complete sentence, but like, this was the original sentence. Toni Morrison, you have to keep that name in. Okay? So what I do and what I recommend is, like, whenever I see a problem like this where I see something for their name, right? And then like an actual name for them, like, I immediately think of biologist Yuri Lee. I always think of biologist Yuri Lee because I always remember, okay, biologist is what they're named after, and Yuri Lee is the actual name. There's never supposed to be a comma in between. Like, I always think of that example. But then I think about the other way. If Yuri Lee was maybe here, so it'd be Yuri Lee, then I'm like, oh, that's not the example. Biologist could go here because biologist you can remove. So that's how I remember it, right? If you get one example stuck in your mind, like, you can immediately always see the pattern. The theory first proposed by a graduate student was ignored for a decade. The theory first proposed by a graduate student was ignored for a decade. First proposed by a graduate student, right? We're in commas. If we remove it, the theory was ignored for a decade, right? Back to delete test and like our original thought. Next, subject verb, the of trap. All right. This is really easy. This is something that if you learn once, you'll immediately get a lot more questions, right? And it's really, really simple. The collection of essays and poems are or is impressive. So let's look at that. The collection of essays and poems. So we have essays, subject, poems. Okay, these are plural. Is impressive, are impressive. I don't know. But the true subject is the collection, right? And of. This is the of thing. Whenever you see of, everything, whatever's before it, that's what the main subject is. The collection. So we have some, let's say we have like essays, right? These are essays. There's 2 essays. There's 2 poems. There's one extra essay. This is one collection. This is one collection. I can't type that out or write that out, but that's one collection. That's why it's singular. So one collection, they are. So this is the they, it test. They or it. Just put they in front of it or it in front of it. I'll show more examples. But they are, like, if you put they is, that doesn't make sense, right? They are makes sense. So this is plural, right? They is a plural and it is a singular. And we have one collection, so it is it, right? One collection, which is singular, and singular is it. It is not they is, right? So they would be plural. And we'll see more examples. So is the example. The collection of essays is impressive. The stack of unread applications sits on our desk. Again, of the stack. Stack is one, right? Singular. The stacks of unread applications. So again, these can be plural. It's possible that it's plural, but we have to look at this, the thing before the of. The choice tells you the question. The choices tell you the question. Again, we could take this to an extreme level, right? The recipe for the bakery's best-selling pastries imported butter. Pastries, recipe, like bakeries. I mean, what I know I'm kind of confusing with bakeries, but like, is it plural? Is it singular? I don't really know. But if we just look at this, we can just they it test, right? They call for it, call for it, call for doesn't work. It would never work. So they are calling for, they have called for, it calls for. This is the only singular. That's it. So now this gives us some intuition. We're like, oh, it. So let's just look like the recipe. Best-selling pastries, imported butter. The recipe imported. The recipe, and then like, look, this is non-essential. This is like, this just adds to the recipe. So the recipe calls for imported butter, right? So this gives us an idea. So immediately, like, yeah, like I said, you can just remove that. The recipe calls for imported butter, calls for. And you can do that really, really easily. So like, again, they, it. Like, again, when you're making that test, when you're making the SAT, like, remember, A has to be wrong for a reason, B has to be wrong for a reason, C has to be wrong for a reason, D has to be right for one reason. So, like, if this is the only one that's it, like, that would make sense that it's the right answer. But again, on easy questions, I'll be real, on easy and medium questions, you're going to see this a lot. You're going to be able to just do this technique and get the right answer, and just, you could go cross up and check. But watch out. Since the 1990s, biologists, it argues, they argue, they have argued, they. So it sounds like it argues sounds right? But we get biologist, right? It is wrong. It's because we're talking about since the 1990s. This is past, I think, past, present participle. It's something. But, like, you have to plug it back in. Since the 1990s, biologist argues that the fungus, that doesn't make sense. Argues is present tense, right? It's present tense. Have argued, right? So they have argued, so this means it's past, and they continue to argue. They have argued since that the fungus is responsible for decline. So you have to plug it back in. So yeah, you can use this technique a lot, but, like, when we start adding in past participle, past, present, future, right? Like, you're going to start getting, like, really weird answers. So you have to plug it back in. But if you plugged in argues back in, you would have been like, oh, that doesn't make sense. Like, it would have been totally fine if you did that. So what did we learn? The choices point to the right answer, right? So you might have it, and a they, right? And, like, you might be like, oh, they seems right. Let me go plug it in and check. But it points to the right answer. But the sentence proves it. So you have to plug it back in and test if it works. So read the choices, confirm it in the question, and understand your rules. That's basically all you have to know to get all your boundary questions right. And then the next step for boundaries. So you just watched this whole entire video. You understood some of the techniques, all the different examples, the ways that you can get tricked. Now, the thing is, you have to go do problems. The way that you do these problems is you do a problem. Let's say you get it right. Okay, good. You do a problem. You get it wrong. There's an exact spot and an exact reason why you got that problem wrong. And immediately look at that problem and be like, okay, I got that problem because I skipped, let's say it was a it, they, right? You saw it, you saw they, you saw they, you saw they, then you picked, oh, it's it. And you immediately picked that answer as you're right and you got it wrong. So then add that to your process. Be like, okay, I got this wrong because I didn't plug it back in to prove my answer. There's a reason why you get every single question wrong. There is a reason. So you have to build off of that. So the next time you get one of these questions again, you have to get it right. You have to. So that's what pattern recognition is, and that's what learning is, right? You're getting something wrong and you're fixing it the next time you do it. You do that pattern, right? And that's all the SAT is. So what you're going to do now is you're just going to do as many boundary problems as possible. Easy. If you genuinely didn't learn as much as you wish you did through this video, just go do easy problems. All right. But for most people, when you do easy problems, like, you're going to get 10 out of 10 of them right, like, the first time, because they're like ones that you can just read and you'll know it immediately. Right. So what I recommend is doing medium and hard only. Okay. And that's what you're going to do. You're just going to go through, you're going to do medium and hard questions and fix your process and keep repetition. And as after you do like 400, 500, if you do is like a lot of questions, you're going to like let volume negate luck, right? I love that from Alex Hormozi. I'm not going to Hormozi, but like do as much volume as possible where you know that you can't get this question wrong. As far as doing problems, I just go down to this library, go to our boundaries, turn on medium and hard. And what I'd immediately recommend to get your repetition in is do 100 of these questions. You see there's 130. Just go through, do as many of these as possible here. Like you can already see, here's a complete and a complete. And yeah, just continue to do as many as you can. And you'll get really good at them and just seeing what's the right answer. Like you can see this is probably this answer right here. Oh, but we have a line right here, so it's probably this. Yep. And yeah, just go through do as many problems as possible. You can also go to test preview. This is our site. One more time, simple SAT, guys.